Welcome back, I'm Austin, and it's time for Warzone Versus, where we go over the stats in depth, and give my verdict on which gun is better, and give you the best class steps at the end. Today, I got a matchup for you. We got the OTS versus Cold War MP5. These are the best up-close SMGs in all of Warzone, and it's time we figure out which one is the top dog. The goal for this video is 50 likes, and going straight into the stats, the OTS will have a better max bullet velocity with 763 milliseconds to 682. This isn't a big deal because these SMGs are only elite up close, and bullet velocity is not a big deal outside of long range. Now, these weapons are more similar than anybody truly realizes. They're basically identical, and that's going to start with fire rate, where the OTS is 855 rounds per minute compared to 854 for the MP5. Yes, that's 1 round per minute difference. These are solid and slightly above average for subs. More bullets downstream is always going to be beneficial, and a big benefit for these weapons. Now, if we switch over to the damage, the OTS will be slightly better when it comes to close range, at 34 average damage to 33.25. I'm telling you, these weapons are basically the same, and this holds true at long range, but this time the MP5 does slightly more damage with 25.75 to 25. Now if we take a look at the full damage breakdown, we're going to be looking at head, chest, stomach, and limb damage. We can see that these weapons have insanely similar damage profiles. However, we can see that the OTS will have a higher headshot multiplier than the MP5. Every other section is literally exactly identical. The best weapons in Warzone will generally have equal chest and stomach shot damage because that gives you a big target area to get their optimal time to kills. Both weapons are going to feel extremely consistent at close range while having upside to lower their TTKs through headshots. At their second range, the MP5 now is 1 damage higher in every section other than headshots. It's weird how they flipped their profiles like this, but I wasn't kidding when I said they're basically the same freaking weapon. And the most likely time to kill at close range is going to go to the OTS with 561 milliseconds compared to 562 for the MP5. Yep, and that's because the OTS literally had 1 round per minute faster. I don't even know what's going on with these. It's crazy how they made 2 of the same weapons. I'm just kidding because there will be some major differences in later parts of this video, but when it comes to damage, fire rate, and TTK, they're basically the same thing. Both weapons will be taking 9 shots to kill, and you'll need 2 chest or stomach shots to get that, and that's super easy to do because there's no way you're hitting less than 2 torso shots out of 9. These weapons are going to feel super consistent with their TTKs because of their damage being equal from chest to stomach, and a benefit to these is that they only take 1 headshot to lower their TTKs all the way down to 491 and 492. Yes, the OTS is still 1 millisecond better, and you're always going to want to go for headshots on these weapons, and a sub 500 millisecond time to kill is insanely good in Warzone, and that's why these are the top 2 close range subs in Warzone. Like any other weapon that can get a sub 500 millisecond time up close other than a shotgun, this is going to be the easiest way to do it. Every other gun, it requires like you to get 4 headshots. These ones, even a very low skilled player can do this. That's why everyone uses these. And before we switch to long range TTK, let's actually talk about the range on these weapons. The MP5 will have a minimal range advantage with 9 meters to the OTS's 7.7. Such an oddly specific range for the OTS. I don't know why they decided to end it in 0.7, but that's just what they did. Now this is where these weapons do really struggle. They do have very terrible range on them, but the MP5 does have a significant advantage here because even though it's such a little difference of only 1.3 meters, that is actually a 17% increase in the range, and everything really matters when the numbers are that small. But another thing that's kind of odd about the OTS is that it does have a 3rd damage range, and it has 2 drop-offs, where it will drop off again at 16 meters. So the OTS is pretty much completely useless when you get to 16 meters. And of course, when we go over to the class setups, we will be maxing out these ranges to be at their best, so it isn't as much of a struggle with them. Make sure to hit the like button. It helps out way more than you know, so just come on, hit it. Now, jumping right back into it, the MP5 will have the better TTK by a big margin at 703 milliseconds to 772. The OTS will be taking 1 more shot to kill with 12 to 11, and the MP5 will need you to hit 7 chest or stomach shots, while the OTS will need you to hit 4 of those to get their respective time to kills. Now, the good news is the OTS can lower its TTK to 702 milliseconds by getting 9 chest or stomach shots, but that won't happen every time because we aren't building these weapons to be super accurate at range because they're only elite up close. Now the MP5 can lower its time to kill with 1 headshot all the way down to 562, which is actually respectable and pretty good time to kill outside of 10 meters. And I think it's easy to see that both these weapons are going to feel super consistent and feel good at close range, but after the damage drop off, they're definitely going to be feeling a little bit weak. And the reason these are popular options in Warzone is because they're the best close range options in the game, but they aren't versatile. Most weapons that are can be good at close and long range, such as the AK or the PVSA H, they aren't going to be elite in either category because then they'd be kind of OP. So these ones are super good up close, so they have to have a little bit of a weakness at range. And speaking of their accuracy, it won't be fantastic, as I sort of mentioned or alluded to earlier. They're gonna be easy to use up close, but once you start moving out, they won't be great because they do have some serious vertical recoil to them, and you can build them out to have a better accuracy or recoil, but that just wouldn't be smart when we're trying to use these inside of 10 meters. Switching over to damage per mag, the MP5 will come out ahead with 1665 to 1360. This is because the MP5 will have a 50 round mag and the OTS can only have up to 40 rounds. We already saw that they basically have identical damage and fire rate, making these extra 10 rounds super valuable. This stat is going to be super important in bigger modes, and it's going to be the most influential in quads obviously, and the OTS is going to struggle in these bigger game modes. Now going to close range damage per second, the OTS is going to be a little bit better with 482 DPS to 474. These are elite DPSs, and the only weapons better than them at close range are going to be akimbo pistols and the DMR and Type. The difference is that these weapons are very unforgiving, while the MP5 and OTS are actually super easy to use. These weapons are just so smooth to use up close. Finally, moving on over to the movement stats, the OTS is going to have the faster ADS movement, and strafe speed. And then they are identical in sprint to fire time. The most significant difference is going to be the movement, where the OTS is actually the second fastest SMG behind only the MAC-10. With the OTS, you're just flying through Verdansk. While the MP5 isn't bad, it's only going to be average for the SMG category. Going into this, I knew the OTS was going to be definitely the more mobile option, but I wasn't expecting this big of a difference. I said these guns were more similar than anyone knew, but there's still pretty big differences with them in the movement stats, damage per mag, and range. Make sure to subscribe for more Warzone videos. Help us reach 5K by the end of the year. Alright, so I've given you all the stats, and it's time for my verdict on the best close range SMG. Why are both of them on the screen? Well, let me explain that to you. For solos and duos, I'd use the OTS, and for trios and quads, I'd use the MP5. I know, a double answer, probably not what you were looking for, never done this before, but let me break down my reasonings. The OTS will kill the MP5 in movement, making it the better overall weapon, but its damage per mag is super low, especially in quads. So the nice thing about the MP5 is the extra 1.5 meters of range, which is a 17% increase. That's the main reason to use it over the OTS in smaller modes. But in trios and quads, I don't think it is competitive because the TTKs are basically identical, and the extra damage per mag just makes the MP5 perform better. We're going to start with the OTS, and what we're going to be doing is maximizing its range by using the GRU suppressor and the 8.1 task force fire, which also, these are going to get the bullet velocities up, control the recoil a bit more, and it's going to get to have 9.5 meters of range. I know that's a whole boatload, but it's better than 7.7. Then we're going to move on over to the stock, and we're going to use this skeletal stock because it gets our sprint to fire time up, which is probably the most important stat on all subs when it comes to movement. And we're also going to get some strafe speed with our ADS. Then for magazine, we got to go with the Spetsnaz 40 rounds because this is going to give us, you know, the best damage per mag we can get on this, which is still going to be pretty bad. And then we go over to the underbarrel, and I'm going to throw in the bruiser grip because this gives us a little bit more hip fire accuracy as well as plus 1% across all movement, making this thing even faster than it already is. Now we're going to move over to the MP5, so this is going to be my quads SMG of choice if I'm using a long range AR with it. And we're going to be using the agency suppressor to get the range up, bullet velocity, recoil control, and this is going to get its range up to about 10.5 meters. We could throw in the task force to get it up to 11, but I just don't think that's worth it. What I'm going to be doing is trying to get its movement stats as good as possible. So we're going to do the Raider stock. This is the sprint to fire attachment once again with the strafe speed. Then I'm going to actually go to the rear grip and add a serpent wrap to get the ADS up. We could also go with the airborne if you prefer that, but I like only the con to sprint to fire, which we already fixed with the Raider stock there. But our ADS is going to be super fast. We're going to put on the Stagnag 50 round drone. And then here we got two options: bruiser grip for movement hip fire just like we used on the OTS, or you can go patrol grip to get that sprinting move speed up, which it gives you plus 5% there. This is plus 1% to all movement. Personally, I like the patrol grip because this one does move a little slower, so then when I'm sprinting, I actually get the same speed as I would with the OTS pretty much. So this is my class set for it, and if you want to know what long range assault rifle to use with it, I got a video linked on screen right now.